Well, good morning to you. It is the Mark Thompson Show, and I'm Kim McAllister filling in. We've got Albert along for the ride. How you doing?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. Tony is taking the day off, I believe. Mark Thompson's having a transformer replaced in his neighborhood. But you know who we do have, and we'll take him right off the top. It's ABC's Spencer Christian talking about storm stuff again because, wow, yesterday really packed a punch. Do we expect to get that noontime thunder and lightning in the city?
Well, we couldn't pinpoint where we thought it would happen, Kim, but we did talk about thunder and lightning the day before when we said there's a lot of instability in this storm, and it
Yeah.
could trigger in the storm, and it could trigger isolated thunderstorms. So be on the lookout for that and lightning strikes. So we couldn't pinpoint exactly where, but as I was driving into the city yesterday from the East Bay, crossing the Bay Bridge, saw two lightning flashes in the sky over San Francisco, and I thought that's pretty
Here it
unusual.
comes. I have some
Yeah.
pictures to show you. This one,
Wow.
you can kind of see there. That's Sutro Tower.
Neutral Tower.
And that is from ABC 7. I lifted it off of your weather forecast.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so big credit to ABC 7 there for that one. But yeah, I guess Sutro's built to withstand that type of thing. I was hoping maybe for an instant before I thought that's not nice, Kim, that it would knock 810 the spread off the air. But no, it didn't. So yeah, they got zapped at Sutro. And then this one is from Cron 4. So credit to
Wow.
them. The top of the Transamerica
Look at
Pyramid
that.
getting zapped. Kind of hard to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thunder and lightning, and then a lot of people reporting hail too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lots of reports of hail. So, what we had forecast, just to plug the accuracy of our department, is that
Fancy.
along with this level 2 storm, not only would we get heavy downpours and powerful, potentially damaging wind gusts, but
Yeah.
thunderstorms and possibility of hail. It was more. Well, it was not just a possibility; it happened. So, yeah, and it was widespread too. We had so many viewers sending us video or pictures of hail that had accumulated in their yards. It was happening all around the area.
So, okay, a couple more pictures to show you. I have
Yeah.
so I have friends that live in Santa Cruz. Here's one of the sidewalk out at Westcliff.
Oh,
Gone.
yeah.
Here's one of the beach in, I think this is
Ah,
the Santa Cruz area. Yeah. And then my friend Shauna walking along the beach saw this house that was obliterated. Doesn't look
oh,
like they're going to rebuild it. You can see
gosh.
the foundation there, and it's just, I mean, as sea levels rise, that you wonder, are they going to really go to rebuild that one? But yeah, that's
Yeah,
gone.
I
And she
know.
said just massive debris all over the shore. Check it out,
Yeah.
just like
Just-
driftwood and pieces of wood. She even found a light bulb in the mess. She said there was really weird things that she was pulling out of the debris along the shoreline. People are walking down there and seeing if there's anything they can use.
Yeah.
She was looking for plaques, the memorial plaques
Oh,
from the
yeah.
Capitola Wharf that had been on benches, and she thought, well, maybe I'll find some of these plaques and I can give them back to the city so they can rebuild. But she found all kinds of crazy
These
things.
these are
We have
amazing pictures, especially the light bulb, because the force of the water. Obviously, if it can destroy a house and pull sturdy structures out to sea, you'd think it would crush a little light bulb, right?
Yeah, and
But
there it is.
look at
She's like,
that.
"Look at that, light
Amazing.
bulb."
Yeah, but you're
Um,
right about the rising seas. I mean, are homes near beachfronts going to be able to survive in the next what decade?
yeah.
Because not only are the sea levels rising, but the storms that develop over those seas are going to be stronger and more forceful, and are going to threaten populations that are coastal.
Yeah, so, I mean, you wonder if is it worth it, and do we need
Yeah.
to change what we're doing along our coastline? You know what else she saw yesterday?
What's
Governor Gavin Newsom,
Oh yeah,
at the
Gavin.
beach in Santa Cruz giving a little speech out there, so that's kinda cool.
Yeah, he interrupted one of my weathercasts
Oh,
yesterday.
Gavin, let Spencer finish, will you? And then, one of our viewers, Flo, he works at a school in the, Campbell area, Los Gatos, Campbell, down in the South Bay, and there was a massive tree on campus that came down, and so he sent in pictures of
Wow,
trees being felled. There
that's
was a couple trees that caused some damage. One fell onto a muni bus yesterday.
Yeah, I heard about that one. Yeah,
Show it to you. There it is.
yeah.
One person injured in that one. So what are we looking at as far as what's coming up? Because I know there's more storms lining up. When are we due for more rain?
Well, today, sorry to say, another level two storm coming in today. Now, it's going to have as much force and intensity as yesterday's storm, but a little bit shorter duration. So yesterday was pretty much an all day storm. It started in the wee hours of the morning. It
Mhm.
went through rush hour, and then the morning rush, and then all the way into the late afternoon. This storm today will probably will feel its most its strongest effects between about 11 a.m., which is not far from now, and 5 p.m. We expect it to have pretty much started moving out of the area between 5 and 7 p.m.
Okay.
During the evening commute. So it won't last as long as yesterday's storm, but it'll produce some 45 to 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts, some heavy downpours from time to time. But it
Ooh,
probably, if we didn't already have the situation we have with the saturated soil and tree roots being weakened and all that,
yeah,
this storm today probably wouldn't be one that we'd consider a damaging storm. But
sure.
because everything is already messed up, this storm today could be as impactful as yesterday's storm.
Okay, and then what's after that? We
Okay,
get
so after
anything?
that we get a break.
Oh,
We can exhale. Tomorrow, we don't even have a ranking on the little wave that's going to come through tomorrow. It's a little trailing end of a weak cold front up north that's going to sweep through the North Bay tomorrow. It may produce some light showers in northern Sonoma County and up around Cloverdale and up there, but
mhm,
it's not likely to produce any rainfall area wide or any winds or any kind of storm impacts tomorrow. So basically, a dry day tomorrow, some sunshine for much of the area.
okay.
Then on Friday we get a light storm coming in, some light rain with a level one storm. The next one we're really concerned about is a Saturday storm, which right now looks like it's going to be a level two, somewhere between what we're going to have today and what we had yesterday.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
writing down everything you said so I can make sure to repeat it.
Okay. And then
I'm
after,
taking my Spencer Christian notes.
then after, I'm glad someone listens to what I say. And then after the Saturday storm, we've got on the 7 day forecast uh, a level one Sunday, a level one Monday, a level one Tuesday. Uh,
Oh,
those, from all indications right now, those will be very light storms. But once again, if we didn't already
yeah.
have the flooding and the saturated ground that we have, we wouldn't even be thinking much about you know, the impact of those storms. But
Mhm.
I'm concerned about the one on Saturday because that if that's a level two as we forecast, it could be damaging. Yeah.
Are you telling people still, as we were a few days ago, to stay away from the coast during all these storms, or what's the thought process?
Yeah, we're trying to give people a few suggestions to uh, prepare for the storm and to be careful. Excuse me, and to protect themselves. One, stay away from the coastline. Even if we don't have one of those high surf warnings in effect, stay away from the coastline because of the storms like these can produce uh, huge waves rapidly. They just crash on shore and sweep you out to sea. So stay away from the coastline. We also ask them to stay off the highways if they can, because the flooding that has built up with these last few storms isn't receding right now. There's still water standing in roadways all around the Bay Area, and then every time it
Yeah.
rains again, which it will today, that creates more driving problems, more hazardous conditions. So we tell them, stay off the highways if you can, stay away from the coast. um, make sure your gutters and your drainage areas are freely flowing and not clogged. Um, in case of power outages, and we've had many, keep some fresh batteries in your flashlights and keep bottled water and food that does have to be
Sure.
prepared. Um, and all those little things, those little survival kit types of tips.
I'm wondering if your forecast ever really differs from the National Weather Service, what they have to say. Do you think they're right on the money most of the time? Or are there some times where you're like, oh, I don't know about that. I'm going a different direction.
Yeah, that you know what? That's a really great question. And the answer is yes, there are times when I go in a different direction. And I
Yeah.
think all of us in our weather department do that from time to time. And that's not meant as a slight against the National Weather Service, because they're putting out their summaries and their forecasts periodically throughout the day. 3 a.m., 6 a.m.,
Mhm.
9 a.m., and sometimes on a really busy day, they'll miss one of those times, and it may not get an updated um, forecast discussion from the Weather Service until, say, well, during a 6 hour span from 6 a.m. to noon, or sometimes from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we have to examine the surface data, and take into account everything the National Weather Service is observing in this discussion,
Mhm.
and then look at other sources as well, and then use our own knowledge of the way systems move here, and our own intuition, basically, for those of us who've lived here a long time, who know that weather systems tend to follow uh, uh, a well-defined pattern, but they can fool you and not always follow the pattern that you're used to seeing. So yeah, I often use my own judgment and my own intuition, my own knowledge of Bay Area weather, and I'll come up with something slightly different, not usually dramatically different, but slightly
Sure.
different from what the National Weather Service puts out there.
Well, this is definitely your busy time, so I thank you for being with us the last few days. And of course, ABC7, the place to turn to for weather, to catch Spencer Christian live on the air and see his tweaked weather forecasts and what he's predicting will come our way. But we thank you for coming here and sharing it with us as well. So
Thanks, Kim.
abc7news.com online and ABC7 on your TV, channel 7. Thank you, Spencer Christian. I always appreciate you.
Thanks, Kim. Always a pleasure being with you. Thanks a lot.
Have a good one.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
So yeah, a lot of storm damage, and according to Spencer Christian, we're not out of the woods yet. We got today's uh, level 2 storm, he said, on tap. So we'll see how that pans out, and I expect more trees to fall and more damage to occur. And the storms are lining up around the Bay Area. I forgot to mention a couple of things. First of all, tax attorney Steve Moskowitz, the sponsor of this show, the exclusive sponsor of the Mark Thompson Show. So thank you to him for loving us and for helping everyone around the Bay Area. You can reach Steve at 888 Tax Deal. Also, MoskowitzLLP.com is the website. I hope to get Steve on in just a bit to talk about that. We have formerly of KGO Radio, John Rothman, will talk to us in about 15 minutes, and we'll talk some politics and things. And then I was hoping to have Pat Thurston on today, but she's working and can't quite pull it off. But I do have an old friend. I'm so excited to talk to him. Comedian Ngaio Bealum will be with us. So we'll talk a little bit about that. He is the founder of West Coast Cannabis. I don't know if he founded it or wrote it. We'll talk to him about it. We'll call him a marijuana enthusiast, and we'll talk to him a little bit about what he's been up to with that. I do want to talk to you a little bit about this crash on the Bay Bridge. I wasn't sure if you had seen this, but there was an accident, and there's been a lot of talk about the automatic driver feature on Teslas, and there have been several accidents. So one of them happened on the Bay Bridge. And Albert, I might need a little bit of help showing this picture. Try to present the screen to you. This, though, is the video of the accident. Now, what happens is, apparently, this is what they're saying, is that the auto driver feature, the driverless feature, all of a sudden the brakes can come on the vehicle for no apparent reason, and that has created some accidents, and including this one on the Bay Bridge, which involved as many as 18 vehicles. There's the video, Albert. I don't know if, okay, yeah, great. Let's check this out. You can see this. I think I started it too late. Here they are coming right along, and all of a sudden, this white Tesla over in the second lane from the left stops, and then it's an 18-car pileup in the tunnel of the Bay Bridge. Yeah. I don't think anyone was killed in this accident, but there was someone hurt, at least. And thank you for showing that. I appreciate it. And so now what you have is an investigation, really, into uh, the driverless feature on Teslas and whether it's safe and what's going to happen with all that. So that's something interesting here in the Bay Area that happened. And I don't know, they're warning people. As Pete Buttigieg rather, came out and said, listen, the driverless feature is named incorrectly. It shouldn't be driverless. It should be driver assisted. You should never look away. You should never think the car is driving for you so you don't have to pay attention. There should always be a human behind the steering wheel. Now Elon Musk said, look, if we have to change the name of the feature, then if we don't have a driverless feature, then our car is not worth anything. I don't necessarily know that that's true. He's banking an awful lot of it on it. I don't know if you saw this picture. Speaking of Teslas, somebody mistook the gas for the brake and went straight into a swimming pool. This happened in Pasadena, where someone drove their Tesla right into the swimming pool there. There were three people, adult and a child, two adults and a child in this pool. Apparently, Good Samaritans had to jump in and pull the people out because everyone's okay. Tesla's not okay, obviously. Albert, you were saying yesterday you thought this looked like Jello.
Yeah,
Uh,
you know when you put stuff in the Jello and it's just
Yeah,
sitting there in the fridge, it looks exactly like that.
yeah. My pool's not that clean right now. If a Tesla went into my pool, it would not look like Jello. It would look kind of like pea soup, unfortunately. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer. A good picture though of a Tesla taking a little
It's a
dip in
nice
a
looking
pool.
pool too. It was a
It
really
is.
nice
It,
looking
it
pool.
was a nice looking pool. You can see all the damage around the side. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you saw this. I'm trying to get this story up. I'm so excited. There is a pair of twins, and they are, I don't know where they're from, but one of there's the boy girl twins, and the boy has cystic fibrosis, I think, and his sister does not. So he's had to face some physical challenges. But he's been working his whole life. He's a really, really smart kid, and he got accepted into Harvard. And there's a video circulating where he logs on and sees his acceptance letter. So I wanted to see if I could share that with you. It's just so infectious how let's see if okay, I'm sharing it. There you go. Let's see if I can start it. He logs on. He fully expects that he will be rejected because it's Harvard, right? And look at the moment they find out that he got into Harvard. His sister said she's almost more excited than he was. So, pretty exciting for them. I love those moments. Yeah. So, pretty good. Uh this is kind of exciting. I don't know. I enjoy those feel good moments when you think that, you're kind of prepare yourself that nothing is gonna happen, and then everything goes right your way. So, I'm gonna bring John Rothman in a little bit early because he's already here with us. Oh,
With
actually,
us?
let's bring in Steve Moskowitz.
Yeah, Steve's
Talk a little
here.
bit about taxes this time of year. Hi, Steve Moskowitz.
Hi, Kim McAllister.
How are you?
Doing great. Yourself?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us today here on the Mark Thompson Show. Mark Thompson's had a recent power issue in his neighborhood, so that today they're replacing the transformer. That's what's happening there. Hmm. But let's talk a little bit about taxes. What are you up to today? Have you saved anybody a lot of money today?
Actually, yes. Going back to one of our this is why I exist professionally.
Right, right.
And again, with the ERC, we're seeing this over and over and over again. That's where the federal government is rewarding employers who employed people during the pandemic of 2020 and 2021 by giving away. It's not a loan; they just give you the money of up to $26,000 for every employee that you have that qualifies.
Yeah.
There's two different ways to qualify. The law clearly says either or. There's the easy way, a certain drop in gross revenue. That's so easy. That's math. 1 + 1 is 2, the correct answer. You don't have to sweat about it, think about it, interview about it. That's the right answer. But I'm shocked at how so many firms are just stopping there. They're not doing the other one. The other one's a lot more work. You have to figure it out. Sometimes we need multiple meetings with client to figure out, do we qualify or not? And of course, not everybody qualifies. But if you do qualify, we've had so many cases where people were turned down by others because their gross revenue didn't drop, but qualify on the facts and circumstances test and are entitled to a lot of money. We've talked about some of them specifically, but there've been a whole bunch like that.
Can I ask you a question about, people claiming things on their taxes? When you say you can write something off,
Yes.
it doesn't mean the whole cost is written off.
In most cases it is, but occasionally there'll be something that you have to allocate. So for example, if you have a business and you rent an office, you would write off deduct the entire amount of the rent. On the other hand, suppose you use the car for both personal and business, and suppose you use the car 80% for business, you could write off 80% of the car. But most write-offs, it's all or nothing.
Oh, okay. See, I was thinking, I was told actually by someone who is not a tax attorney and does not have your expertise, that usually it's like, you think you're going to write off a business lunch, but it's only 25 or 30% that gets deducted from your.
Oh, first of all, it doesn't work that way. And much like getting medical advice, for
That's
me,
why you have to go to Steve Moskowitz.
for
That's
me,
why.
I would
Yeah.
only ask for my medical advice from a physician.
That's right. 888 tax deal. MoskowitzLLP.com, MoskowitzzLLP.com. I was gonna sing the Nikki song, but I'm gonna leave that to Nikki.
I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that one on
Thank you,
Nikki's show.
Steve Moskowitz. I appreciate you being here. As always, thank you for taking the
I
time.
appreciate you too. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks. See you soon. That's Steve Moskowitz, our founding sponsor, and we thank him so much. If you do need tax help, he's definitely the one to call. Okay, so let's do news a little bit early, and then I'll bring on John Rothmann to talk about politics and some other issues, some state politics, some federal politics. But right now, I want to get to the news. Do we have the news theme? If we don't have it, it's okay. But I have some good pictures for news. I'm Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, I don't think we have the music today, Kim. Sorry.
See what happens when Mark checks out. It's like everything just goes to hell. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Okay, so let's start with this picture of. I tried to show it to you earlier. This is a picture of a giant ficus tree that came down right onto a Muni bus. Happened at Stockton and Stockton and Sutter Streets. One person hurt, expected to be okay. These are the kind of things of talking to Spencer Christian that we may keep seeing as the ground is already saturated and we're going to keep getting some rains. Even if the storms are not as severe as they have been, the ground's already soaked. So a little more rain and voila. There was also a situation in the Los Gatos area where a tree came down right on top of a pickup truck. Look at that. This is a situation. This is, by the way, the picture courtesy of the Los Gatos Montessorino Police Department. Look, crushed the hood of this white pickup truck, smashed the windshield as well. They were called out, the police, to pull the driver out. It smashed right on the hood. The driver, only minor injuries in this one. And of course, a really big deal. This, yeah, I'm telling you, people have had the worst time. Oh, I closed my news. Look at that. People have had the worst time with flights of late. And then yesterday, we have a huge problem with the FAA and the system there. So let's go to the next one. Flights canceled all over the place. Big, big problems. This is a nationwide ground stop. They had to stop all traffic because of an FAA computer malfunction. It's now under investigation. More than 7,000 flights within, into, or out of the United States were delayed, 1,100 canceled. It looks like things are getting back to normal slowly. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says they're still working to figure out exactly what happened, what caused that FAA system outage. He said there's no indication it was a cyber attack, but he's not ready to completely rule that out. So they're trying to figure out exactly what happened there. But they think they have everything back and ready to roll again. The state of New York can continue to enforce gun control measures after a ruling by the Supreme Court. It's leaving in place an appeals court ruling that lets the state uphold new measures while a legal challenge is presented. Two conservative justices were the ones that noted the decision not to intervene doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't have merit. So, the state of New York can continue to enforce gun control measures after a ruling by the Supreme Court. And again, a little more on this story with the Tesla into the swimming pool. That's a wild picture. It was two adults and a 4-year-old child that had to be rescued when that Tesla crashed through a brick wall and landed in a residential swimming pool. Happened yesterday at a home in Pasadena, right across the street from a middle school. The driver hitting the accelerator instead of the brake, sending the car straight through the wall. It was staff members from the school who jumped into the pool to rescue the people out of this submerged Tesla, but it looks like everybody is okay in this situation. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. So if you need help with your taxes, you got to call Steve Moskowitz at 888 tax deal or at moskowitzllp.com. Okay, I can't wait to talk to formerly of Station X/KGO, John Rothmann, about politics. So let's bring him in. Hi, John Rothmann.
Good morning, Kim. How nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you as well. You had some slush in your backyard, some hail.
We did, and it congealed in such a fashion that it looked like snow. So I
Okay.
called my son Samuel, who was about to go off to Aspen. I said, forget about Aspen. Come here. You can ski in the backyard. Well, almost.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to ask you about was this new Republican majority in Congress. They have promised that they will do some investigations now into the Biden administration, kind of a tit for tat. Like, you investigate January 6th, you investigate Trump, we're going to investigate you. Tell me a little bit about what's happening.
Well, the Republicans have a problem. They have a very slim majority in the House of Representatives. They can pass legislation. As you know, they've already passed a bill on abortion, which would virtually do away with a woman's right to choose. They're going to pass these things, but they're not going anywhere. That is to say that the Senate is never going to approve any of this stuff.
Right.
So what do the Republicans have to do? They promised that they would do investigations, and that is exactly what they're going to do. They are determined to turn up any dirt that they can on Joe Biden, on the Republicans. From the Republicans' point of view, Biden is the arch nemesis, but they're going to go after the Democrats all the way. And the same thing applies to January 6th. To them, January 6th was a picnic. It was a nice, pleasant day with tourists visiting the Capitol, and they are unwilling to tackle that issue. So the Republicans have got a problem. They have to come back to the American people and say, we did something. And that's what they're going to pursue Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and the Biden family, what they call the Biden crime family.
Really? That's what they call them?
Oh, yes.
Well, and now with the revelations of late that there were some classified documents found in I think I was referred to as a Biden think tank building.
Yeah, at
They
the
have some
university.
ammunition, right?
Well, they really don't. And that's the curious thing. Let me give you the best example I can. And with Steve Moskowitz listening in, perhaps he'll understand this. It's one thing when you make a mistake on your taxes and you immediately say to the IRS, I made a mistake, or they tell you you made a mistake and you say, yeah, it's a mistake. It's very different than when you purposely try to cheat. And the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is that Joe Biden wasn't trying to cheat. He wasn't, as he says, even aware. There are less than a dozen documents. We don't even know really the substance of them. But look what Donald Trump did. And Donald Trump is still claiming that those documents belong to him, not the American people. So it's a profound difference. But understand the Republicans are going to seize on any and every opportunity in order to slam Joe Biden and the Democrats. And interestingly enough, Biden's popularity is going up, not by much, but it's still a steady increase. And with 2024 right around the corner, the Republicans are very conscious of the fact that, number one, they want to keep the House majority and hopefully increase it. Number two, they want to try to take control of the Senate. And number three, they want to take control of the White House. So they've got to get themselves on a track where they can come back to the American people and say, we promised you we would do these investigations, and we have. I think, to be blunt with you, it's the wrong tack to take, but they're doing it.
I wonder, you talked about intent with these documents. Will Republicans consider that? Will they, I mean, reasonable people may consider it, but does it just then become more, see, he did it too, it's not a big deal?
Yeah, the operative word there is reasonable.
Yeah.
The Republicans are not reasonable on these things. And let me say this in a nonpartisan way. I'm not appearing on the Mark Thompson program with you, Kim, in order to be a partisan. I'm here to state it the way I see it. The Republican position on abortion, for instance, first bill they passed, these are the kinds of things that the American people have to take a hard look at. If the Republicans controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House, the course of American history would be profoundly changed. And one of the reasons I believe, and I said this repeatedly in the lead up to the election when we were on KGO, is I made it very clear. I thought this last election was a referendum not on the economy, but on the position of the Republican parties on choice. And what did we learn in the election? That younger voters turned out in overwhelming numbers, that women turned out in overwhelming numbers, and the Republicans lost. If you're on the wrong side of the issue, there's nothing you can do to reclaim the high ground. And I must tell you, and I say this respectfully, I was riveted to the proceedings on the floor of the House. Absolutely riveted. I was shifting between C-SPAN, MSNBC, Fox, CNN, watching every minute. And I will tell you what I learned. I remembered a book, The Devil and Daniel Webster, in which Daniel Webster sells his soul, if you will. The character sells his soul and has Daniel Webster represent him in the court of heaven, so to speak. What Kevin McCarthy did was to sell his soul. What the Republican Party has done is to sell their souls. And there is a consequence for that. You have to be held accountable. So I commend to everybody The Devil and Daniel Webster. You can Google it. You can watch a movie about it. You can even hear a radio drama about it. And you understand what Kevin McCarthy did. And let me make one other comment. From McCarthy, Joe McCarthy, to Kevin McCarthy.
No relation.
To McCarthy, no relationship, except their policies are just as outrageous and egregious.
So you're talking about reasonable people. And I found this story, I thought it was a little interesting. We've been talking a lot of late about George Santos, right? This New York congressman caught fabricating all kinds of things, from his education to his career to his religious background and what have you.
And you heard this morning that the Nassau County Republican organization denounced him and said,
so these are Republicans in his home state who
his
are
home
saying
district, his
home district, who are saying, you need to resign. You lied to people and you need to step down. I don't think that we're going to see the same message from Republicans in Congress, because to them, he's another vote. Right. Yeah. He's a vote that we need. We don't care what kind of a bad guy he may be, that he, has lied to his voters or his constituents and everybody else in the world. He's a vote. We'll take him. But his home district, the Nassau County Republican Party, says, you need to step down. We're done.
The Republican leadership in Congress has said they're going to handle this matter privately. Yeah. Well, it's far beyond that now. And you're right. It all hinges on votes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I handle it privately. That's like a parent who doesn't want their kid to get suspended at school. We'll handle this privately. I don't think that has any teeth. What are they going to do to him? Not give him a committee assignment? He's a freshman congressman. How can they punish him?
Well, we in Northern California now understand that Adam Schiff is going to be denied his committee assignments. I understand that there are several others in line, including another congressman from Northern California. The Republicans are being vindictive and unreasonable. And the fact that Kevin McCarthy could embrace the far right of the Republican Party is an indication of the weak spine and the lack of morality that now permeates, I hate to say this, the party of Lincoln. If Abraham Lincoln were alive, Kim, he'd be rolling over in his grave.
Back to just a minute to the documents. I just
Sure.
that were found in President Biden's think tank office in a locked closet, I believe. I
Yes.
just saw a story pop up on the wire. President Biden says he was surprised to learn that his attorneys found government records at his former office. He didn't realize they were there. He
In
was in
stark
Mexico.
in stark contrast to Donald Trump, who not only wasn't surprised but claimed he owned the records to begin with. I mean, the differences are so
And-
clear. But don't
and then
tell
said-
that to the right.
And then said he gave them all back, and then more were found, right? So Biden in Mexico City says his team is fully cooperating with the findings. They say about a dozen documents from his time at vice president turned up a week before last year's midterm elections, and that his lawyers notified the National Archives right away. They contacted the archives and said, "Look, we got a problem. We got these documents." What's the reason that a vice president, a former president, would be taking documents out of their habitat where you would think that they would stay to these other places? Why would you do that?
It's not just former presidents and vice presidents who have top security clearance. So do others. And you take documents and you use them. You might be doing it to write your memoirs. You might be doing it for another reason or two. And things get confused. I don't know about you, but take a look at my house and you'll see how documents get confused. The point is, this was not a threat to national security. Donald Trump's actions were, because he took highly sensitive national security items, then said he owned them and he could declassify whatever he wanted. Joe Biden is simply saying we made a mistake. And of course, this is a club for the Republicans to hit the Democrats over the head and to say there is a double standard. Can you imagine, Kim, and I say this very respectfully, can you imagine the Republican Party wanting an investigation of the FBI, that the Republican Party wants to investigate the CIA, that the Republican Party, which was the great defender of national security, even in the days of J. Edgar Hoover, they were willing to go out on a limb for the FBI. It is the politics of destruction, and it's a politics of destruction based on the need for self-interest. And again, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. How do we stomach this, and what does it mean for America's future? And frankly, what does it mean when we learn that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, second in line for the presidency of the United States,
Yep.
is willing to sell his soul in order to become Speaker of the House?
And let's talk a little bit more about that, because there's an article on CNN today saying that the GOP may end up regretting McCarthy's concessions that he made to get himself elected to Speaker of the House. One of the things he did, according to the first line of the article, was to take a selfie with Marjorie Taylor Greene. But what else did he give up? Did he give up some of these chairmanships for committees in the House? Did he, what other concessions did he make, and what might they regret?
Okay, on chairmanships and subcommittee chairmanships, we'll find out in the next day or two. In fact, some of those announcements may come tonight. We don't know what he has given up. And part of the interesting thing is Kevin McCarthy said, we're going to be transparent. Well, they're far from transparent. And in fact, some Republicans, some conservative Republicans, are saying, we don't know what the deal is. We don't know what was given away. Yep. Can you imagine if the Democrats had done this, what the Republicans would be saying? The hypocrisy is so incredibly self-evident. That's what's very disturbing. And I say it, I would say this if the Democrats were in charge as well. This is just not the way the House of Representatives ought to be run. If it is the people's house, and if you pledge transparency, the last thing you want to do when you become Speaker of the House in your first week is to do things that are deceitful and behind people's backs. It's a tragedy. And frankly, from McCarthy to McCarthy, as I said earlier, the Republican Party is going to have a lot to account for.
Yeah, I just wonder if we're going to see in the next day or two the 20 that were the holdouts being given positions of power.
Oh, you will. We already know, I think, that 11 of the 20 are being given major positions. But understand, it's not just being the chairman of a committee. It is the chairmanship of the subcommittees of the House, these committees. And that's what's going to be interesting as well. But this is not a Republican Party that is reasonable or manageable, and certainly not inclusive. To go after Adam Schiff the way they are is just unconscionable. Just unconscionable.
Let's move to former Trump CFO, former Trump Organization CFO. I call him Weaselberg, but I think his name is Alan Weisselberg.
Weisselberg is correct.
Yeah. He was sentenced to 5 months in jail for his scheme, his role in this tax scheme with the Trump Organization. He's going to Rikers in New York. He's going to be behind bars for a while. It seems like 5 months isn't that long when you consider how much money the government was defrauded of. But okay, 5 months is what it is, and I wonder if that's as high as the punishment's going to go in the Trump Organization.
Well, certainly that's what the court did. It delimited the punishment so that the Trump family is not involved in this. Weisselberg is taking it on the chin. He's taking the fall for Donald Trump, who remains his friend and his patron. And all I can tell you is it's, again, a shocking turn of events. The person who is in charge is the person who should take the fall. And if anyone believes for a minute that Donald Trump and his family were not fully aware of what Weisselberg was doing to save them money, or that they were slipping him all these deals under the table, tuition, cars, vacations, and that they didn't understand what the purpose was, isn't living in the real world. Steve Moskowitz, if he were here, I'd ask him, what do you think of this? This is disgusting. But let me also make a comment about what's happening in Georgia. We don't know yet what the Georgia grand jury has decided to do, but it would surprise me beyond words if Donald Trump is not named as a conspirator, as a man who tried to obstruct the election in Georgia. We're not talking only about the federal elections. And so, look, I happen to believe in the American system. I believe that in the end, justice prevails. I have to believe that. And I believe that in the end, the American people will know the truth. If I may quickly say, Donald Trump is declining in popularity. He will probably, in my judgment at this moment, not have the strength to be the Republican nominee. But what is the most shocking thing of all is that between a third and a quarter of Republican voters still would choose him as their nominee for president of the United States.
Well, and you can't say that he's not without influence as well still, even though in some circles it seems like Republicans are backing away a little bit. When the vote was going on for Speaker of the House, you saw him play a role. It looked like he was calling people and, telling them who to vote for and
Matt
whatnot.
Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all of his sycophants were brought in line. And you will note that Kevin McCarthy acknowledged publicly two people, Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz. If you get into a bed with fleas, you pick them up. And these guys, well, they're not the most reputable people. I'm always reminded of the expression, what do you think of these guys? Well, the question is not whether you go to bed with them. The question is, once you're in bed, how far do you go? And what Kevin McCarthy did is he went all the way.
You paint quite a picture there, my friend. We're talking about legal maneuverings with the Trumps. And there was a decision made today. The Proud Boys trial is going to be underway. A judge decided today that he will actually be allowing prosecutors to use the video of Trump when he said, "Stand back and stand by." They're going to be able to move forward with that. He was talking to the Proud Boys at the time, right? He was telling the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. And so they're going to be able to use it.
That particular address, I was mistaken, was in the debate with Joe Biden during the presidential campaign. And those of you who are listening to us on KGO as we talked about that, I replayed that over and over and over again because I wanted people to understand. And the tragedy is that Donald Trump has reinforced that. And this is not good. Stand back and stand by. And then comes January 6th. I think not only is Georgia going to be dealing with some of these issues, but Merrick Garland is going to be dealing with them as well. a lot of criticism by some of Merrick Garland for not moving quickly enough. I believe when all the facts are known and the evidence is compiled, the indictment by the Justice Department of Donald Trump will be, well, I think it'll be ironclad, to be honest.
You think so because they're taking their sweet time with it, right? Time to build a case, time to get all their ducks in a row. But I think to a lot of people, it feels like it's never going to happen. That it's another instance of people with money, people in power, not being held to the same type of rules. I mean, you or I do something like this. Proud Boys, charged with seditious conspiracy. They don't get away with it. But the guy who stands up and says, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, and somebody's got to do something about Antifa. This is the quote. And the left, because it's not a right-wing problem, nothing happens to him. And that's how it looks.
Something is going to happen. Let me tell you, as somebody who went through Watergate and somebody who understood Richard Nixon, there were many people who believed that Richard Nixon would never face the penalty that he faced, ultimately resigning the presidency. But I would remind you, it took a little more than 2 years between the Watergate break-in and Richard Nixon's resignation. We're talking here about just 2 years. So I'm somebody who believes that the wheel of justice turns. It may turn slowly, but the facts are absolutely clear, at least in my mind. And clearly many Republicans feel the same way. Can I say a word about Mitch McConnell?
Please.
Mitch McConnell is the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. He is extremely unhappy with Donald Trump, and he's made his displeasure known, as has his wife, Elaine Chao, who I would remind you served in Trump's cabinet.
She's a labor secretary, right?
Yep. And so what you have now, no, she was transportation secretary.
Oh, was she? Okay, yeah.
But I believe that what you now have in a clear situation is the Republican Party is recognizing what it means for the future. And that's the thing about Kevin McCarthy. They have to think about what tomorrow will bring. I'm thinking of the song from Annie. Tomorrow. I'm not going to sing it for you, but your daughter.
I was hoping.
Could. And this is something we have to have an accountability. Let me be clear. It doesn't mean that everything falls into place right away, or that justice is swift and certain. It means that there needs to be time to put together all the facts. I have begun the process of reading the January 6th report. It is devastating, devastating. And the fact that the January 6th committee referred to the Justice Department recommendations for criminal indictment is critical. And who do you think they're talking about? They're talking about Donald Trump. And let me remind you, Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal attorney, has now been subpoenaed before a grand jury, which theoretically would be in favor of the Trump situation. So what you're seeing is a daily erosion. This needs to be talked about every day. And one of the things that the Mark Thompson show does, and which we tried to do on our time on KGO, was to make sure that these issues did not disappear. Look, we could have talked today about the state deficit. You'll remember when we were.
Oh, I'm going to ask you about that too. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just tell you.
Let's go for it.
Lead into it and tell you. When we first heard we had this massive surplus, I said, you better hold on to it, because a surplus turns into a deficit awfully quick when you're dealing with the state of California. But we have to think in the long term, whether it has to do with Donald Trump, the Republican Party, and yes, the Democrats. We'll go to the state issue, but let me just quickly say about the Democrats. They have to do some tall thinking. Is Joe Biden going to run for re-election? If
he
Joe Biden,
yes.
He does, but he hasn't announced formally yet. And the reason he hasn't announced is once you announce formally, all of the federal election process goes into high gear.
Sure.
And so the Democrats have to consider what happens in the next 2 years or the year and a half before the Democratic convention. What will the situation be? Who are the alternative candidates? And by the way, speaking of alternative candidates, is not disloyal at all. It is anticipation. Now, Katie Hobbs just announced that she is going to run for the United States Senate seat currently held by Dianne Feinstein.
Who
Well,
has not said she's not running yet, right?
that's correct, but you have to proceed from the premise that there are going to be changes. And if you want to be on the cusp, you want to begin that process, you've got to start now. I expect Adam Schiff to jump in on this and several other Democratic potentials because the United States Senate seat is something you got to fight for here in California. So we'll see.
I wanted to ask you before we let you go about the situation with former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. I've been trying to follow this. So he comes to Florida last year on a visa, right?
Well,
Has,
let's not say it wasn't a year ago. It was right after he left the presidency of Brazil, which is a few
where
weeks
apparently his supporters staged an insurrection.
ago. Right.
Now they want him back home. Can you lay this out? What in the world is happening?
If I knew the answer to that, I could get the Nobel Prize. Look, it's very clear that Bolsonaro lost a very narrow election. His supporters are taking the Trump line that it was a fraudulent election. We know that it wasn't a fraudulent election. The Brazilian Supreme Court weighed in on it. Everybody's weighed in on it. But if you keep saying that you won, and you say it often enough, who knows, Kim? They might believe you. And by the way, don't worry about letting me go. You'll never let me go because I would never leave your side.
So this is a situation where his supporters ransacked Brazil's capital over the weekend.
Supreme
Right?
Court building, legislative offices, and the White House of Brazil.
I mean, it's a severe chaos going on in Brazil. He comes to Florida after this whole election debacle. And he's everywhere. He's at the fast food restaurants. He's at the grocery store. He's not keeping a low profile here. Well, now he's in the hospital, but people are calling for President Biden to, I don't know what they have to declare him. They have to declare that he is harming U.S. foreign policy in order to deport him. But that's what the call is being made for, to deport him and get his rear end back to Brazil. What's going to happen with this, do you think?
I have no idea. I think Bolsonaro wants to establish that he is still a factor. You will note that he did denounce the violence which took place in Brasilia, unlike the example in this country of a former president. But only time will tell. But it goes to show you how fascinating every day in the news is. Every minute there is something going on that needs to be discussed. And what is happening in Brazil, in a sense, is very sad. I'm going to date myself and tell you that I remember when Brasilia, the capital, was built in 1960, 61. And it was a whole big thing about a new capital emerging out of nowhere. And of course, all my friends in Brazil say, we should have stayed in Rio.
You know, one thing back to state this issues with California. One thing I haven't heard people complain about, and everybody loves to complain about Governor Gavin Newsom, like you love him or hate him, right? But I haven't heard anyone say, with a catastrophe like this storm has brought on, as many as 17 or 18 people killed in weather-related incidents, I haven't heard anyone say he's not handling it right. He's declared a state of emergency for California. There's federal money coming. And so I have to look at it when you talk about him possibly running for the presidency, as I heard you mention to Mark recently. You look at how they handle major disasters, right? I looked at former President Bush and how he handled the hurricanes in Louisiana, right? Remember Brownie? Brownie's coming, all that, and mishandled.
Good job, Brownie.
Good job, Brownie. Right. But Governor Gavin Newsom, it seems to be, when the wildfires hit, earthquakes strike, major storms come, he seems to do a pretty good job. Have you heard anything to the contrary?
No, just wait a week. Just wait a week. I do get the updates from the California Republican Party that blast him repeatedly. But that's the nature of political partisanship. In the end, Gavin Newsom did something else that was very controversial. He's put this $3.5 million into the budget in order to make sure that if there's a drug overdose, they've got the appropriate shot to give to the kids.
Narcan, sure.
Yeah, the Narcan. So, there are things that are going to be pro, things that are going to be con. And here in California, remember, we are basically a one-party state.
Yeah.
We don't have a viable Republican Party, which to me is a tragedy. Not that I'm a Republican, but I think you're better off when you have a legitimate opposition. But we'll see how Gavin Newsom is viewed. Let me remind you that we have another problem, and that is Kamala Harris, because you cannot have two Californians competing for the presidency at the same time. It simply wouldn't work. It would split the California delegation. The last time that happened here in California, we had three Republicans, Goodwin Knight, Bill Noland, and Richard Nixon, who all wanted to be president. The year was 1958. And if Noland and Knight lost their elections in 58 in a game of musical chairs, Nixon emerged triumphant. I don't think the Democrats here in California have that luxury. We have to understand that Dianne Feinstein, an iconic figure, despite her age and evident incapacity, and I say incapacity because she hasn't held a press conference, done an interview in a very long time. So the battle is on for her seat. We now know that Gavin Newsom is not going to run for the Senate. He's going to serve his term as governor, and he'll have to deal with California politics. I do want to go back for 1 second. I know we're almost out of time, to the question of what we do here in California. We never had a surplus, not really. And the fact that everyone was so happy to have this multi-billion-dollar surplus, and now we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar deficit. The advice that I gave at the time is, let's pretend we have nothing. Let's not do anything, because we're going to need whatever monies we have, because California's got real problems. This storm, as Spencer Christian alluded in his interview with you, is going to cost the state of California a fortune, even with federal help. And this is not the last major climate crisis. Did you hear me? It's a climate crisis. This is not the last we're going to have. California has real problems ahead.
There's an issue that we used to talk about a lot as Station X wound down, and that was the war in Ukraine. And there's a couple things that are coming out today. First of all, Poland is announcing it's going to be sending Leopard tanks to Ukraine. The
That is
United
correct.
States keeps sending, more billions, and now Bradley fighting vehicles and everything else. Today, we also got word that there is going to be a new commander leading Russian military forces. I'm wondering how you see the war in Ukraine proceeding as we go into 2023.
Let me add to that, we are now also training Ukrainian fighters here in the United States of America. That came out yesterday. It's a serious problem. This is a proxy war, essentially. And this is going to escalate. It's not just the United States now, it's the Europeans. And Vladimir Putin is on very shaky ground. He knows that, I believe. And so this is a disaster. The humanitarian crisis in the Ukraine, particularly now in the midst of a Russian winter, Ukrainian winter, is overwhelming. And so our role is important. Let me point out the Republicans want to reevaluate the aid we're giving to Ukraine. And then all of a sudden they're steering back and saying, no, we just want to have accountability. There's always been accountability. We cannot allow what's happening in Ukraine to be a partisan political issue. The American people have to stand with Europe, absolutely firmly in the camp of the Ukrainians. By the way, it doesn't mean that everything Ukraine does is perfect. It doesn't mean that Zelensky is perfect. It means that we are taking a stand in a proxy war to try to contain, and I use that term advisedly, Russian aggression. It is not just we who worry. Talk to the Latvians, the Estonians, the Lithuanians, talk to the Poles and the Hungarians, talk to the people in Eastern Europe who are on the front line. And we also have to deal with another factor, and that is Vladimir Putin. He's been quiet. Is it because of his health, as some people speculate?
Right.
Is it because he's weakened in a position in the Kremlin? And the other issue, it's not like the old days when you had a Politburo in the days of the communist system, where you knew in a pecking order who people were in succession. We don't know really who is the viable leader after Vladimir Putin and whether Putin's policies would be reversed. All of these things we should be debating and discussing and dealing with. And one of the things that amused me, although it shouldn't have amused me, it disturbed me, is that while Congress was going through all its machinations, all the funding was cut off on a variety of intelligence aspects in the Congress. And how the Republicans could have allowed that to happen is also beyond my imagination. So these are all issues, Kim. Would that we had hours to talk about one issue after another. And that's the value of what Mark Thompson is doing and what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is also the value of talk radio, which we don't have in San Francisco, which is a whole other issue.
No, we have a conservative station, but we don't have one where any point of view is welcome.
There's
So,
no live local
Yeah.
interaction. And the great thing, and I don't know about you, and I know Mark, I'm sure you both get emails from people who say, we miss having the opportunity to air our point of view, to argue our
Right.
point of view. And that is something that I miss every single day. You know what my
I
wife
do
told me?
too. Yeah.
My wife told me there's one thing I can't ask her. What's for lunch?
I will say that this show and Nikki's show really does give people the chance to talk about what they want to talk about, and differently than KGO, where we would get phone calls and we would, look at texts. Now everyone can see the thoughts of the other listeners, the other viewers. And so we do have, well, let's check the texts or the chat.
I haven't checked. Do we have time to look
Yeah.
at it?
So, yeah, John, we need more of you, please. So people are loving that you're here. They appreciate your wisdom. Karen says that we appreciate you. And let's see, Mr. Radio, John is on the side of winning. That's right. Calvin is asking what's for dinner. Mr. Radio says Russia will not retaliate. But see this, and this is the interesting part of this different medium. And I kind of wish we would have had this at Station X, where listeners not only could interact with us, but they could also interact with each other, because some great relationships are being forged and some great conversations happen in the chat room, a whole community formed. And it's not something that we saw happening ahead of time. It just kind of, became this thing. And I really love what people have to say in the chat. And so there is that part of it where people are able to come and express themselves, which is
I
important.
agree. And it's very similar to the emails we received. One of my regrets is I received over 1,000 emails in the days following the demise of KGO, which I will still call KGO, not Station X. It's what it was. I couldn't answer them all. I haven't the time to be able to do all of the answering. And we know the impact. By the way, I have to tell you a funny story. I was at an event the other night, dinner party, and somebody said, "Hey, didn't you used to be John Rothman?"
You're like, no, I'm still John Rothman. But that's the thing. It's like you didn't die. You're off the radio. You're still the same guy. You're still someone who thinks about things and who has interesting ideas to share. That didn't go away just because Station X went away.
That's cool.
So there was one listener, SF Tesla, talking about Governor Gavin Newsom and the Rainy Day Fund. Actually, that was started by Jerry Brown. So I think you were talking a little bit about, how much money the state has and how we need to conserve it and watch what we're doing. What we do have now that we didn't have the last time that, finances took a real hit is we do have this Rainy Day Fund.
Do you know how much money's in it?
According to SF Tesla, Newsom put $35 million in it, but I think there's a lot more than that.
Okay, that's the problem. $35 million is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
This storm is going to cost this state more than $1 billion because of all the repairs, which by the way, I love the imagery you used in showing that house knocked off its foundations and so forth.
Yeah.
And trees falling. I mean, it's going to cost us a lot. One of the things maybe you and Mark can do is to get Gavin Newsom on the show with you, so that he has an opportunity to talk about. This is something that he has to deal with, and he's not responsible. It's very important to understand. Gavin Newsom is not responsible for what has happened. Nobody is. These are natural disasters that I'm going to suggest to you are going to grow and increase in the days ahead. And for those who are still climate deniers, this is a wake-up call. I don't think anybody will wake up. The people who are opposed to dealing with climate change aren't going to change their minds. But and how he responds, the way he applies state funds, requests for emergency relief, all of those kinds of things are going to be important because he is the governor of the state of California.
Vilma's liking Governor Gavin Newsom. She says he's had to deal with fires and earthquakes and flooding and homelessness. I don't know how well he's dealt with homelessness. The care court will, see how that goes. She says it's been a handful and that he would certainly be qualified to be president.
Oh, he's certainly qualified to be president. Understand, like any candidate for political office, he carries a lot of baggage. And you all know that the American people don't necessarily vote for someone, they vote against. And one of the things that we have to think about, both for Democrats and Republicans, is what are their records? And can their records hold up to public scrutiny? I have a confession to make, Kim. I listen to Tucker Carlson. I listen
know.
to Sean Hannity. Well, I suffer from low blood pressure, so it stimulates me.
I know that you do it because you want to hear all sides, but
And
I
they just rip Gavin Newsom whenever they can.
I can't support. I clicked on a Tucker Carlson video the other day because he had a guest on that I wanted to hear what the guest had to say. And I felt scuzzy and dirty the entire time because I thought the more clicks I give this person, the more they're feeling supported. And I just don't want to be the person supporting him
You
because
can't do it that way, Kim. You have to do
he's
it another way.
gross.
But you can't, if you're going to be critical, as I am, of various left and right, I have to listen to them. Jim Jordan. I find Jim Jordan, who will now be the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, absolutely repulsive. But I listened to him. Last night I listened to the Sean Hannity's interview with Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise and with Jim Jordan and others. And, how did I feel about it? I'm not happy, but did I watch it in order to learn? The only way I know how to argue is to know both sides. In debate, one of the things both coaches in high school and college insisted is that we be able to argue both sides of every issue, that we be able to articulate them in a clear and precise fashion. Yeah. That is what we have to do. That's why listening to these people, being critical of them, the distortions that I hear from right-wing media is just astounding.
I just don't want listening to equate support, and that's where we part on this one, I guess.
It's not
but
support.
A lot of people.
I'm clearly not supporting, but I'm certainly listening. You can't criticize something unless you know what it is that's been said. You have to be precise, and that to me is one of the most critical things about listening and being in this business.
And I agree that you have to be able to maintain and understand and even make the argument on both sides of an issue, right? Because if you don't understand the opposing side, then you can never really think it through all the way. You've got to be able to see where everyone's coming from. And so I agree with that in a logical, reasonable way, but I have a hell of a time stomaching him.
I know. I feel the same way, but believe me, having been at talk radio for so many years, there are a lot of things I have to stomach that I don't like. And I still do it because in order for us, you and I, to do our job fairly, and for listeners, we have to be informed on all sides. If I'm going to be critical of McCarthy or Scalise or Jordan, I can't be critical based on what somebody else said.
Yeah.
It has to be their words. And let me tell you, in the Georgia trial of Donald Trump, the indictment that I think will inevitably come, it's because of his own words. Judge people by their words. And of course, we can forgive, but I think it's very important not to forget nor to distort.
Yeah, it reminds me of that old saying, when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah. You know the old expression, if they say they're going to kill you, believe them.
So we have a lot of listeners, viewers saying, hey, John Rothmann needs to come on every week. He needs to be a weekly guest. And I think that's in the works, right? I think Wednesday is going to be your day.
I don't know whether it's my day. I told Mark that whenever you guys call me, I said, if at the drop of a hat, if I'm not doing anything, and now that I'm unemployed, retired, sitting I'm happy to do it. And, Mark, you and Mark will work out this. And may I say, I'm delighted that you were here today. Everybody should know that when Kim McAllister first started doing filling in at KGO, she had great doubts about whether she could pull it off. And Kim, you have pulled it off magnificently. And I just don't say that because you're my friend, but because I
Aw.
truly believe you've made a great, great contribution.
Thank you, John Rothman. Thanks for coming on the show today. I appreciate it. I look forward to the next time Mark will be back and we'll be talking about politics again with you. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure. And thank you. And may I extend to everybody a happy, healthy New Year.
Hey, stay dry in the city, okay?
That'll be fun. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Our thanks to John Rothman, formerly of Station X. Let's get to some news. The flights, that's one thing I didn't ask John Rothman about. It was on the tip of my tongue and I forgot to do it, but we'll ask him about it next time. The flights slowly resuming at the nation's airports after, honestly, quite a mess. See if I can get to a picture of a little airplane for you. Yeah, so I'm telling you, with this computer glitch that affected the notice to air missions system. In a tweet, the FAA said the ground stop is no longer affected. So, air travel once again resuming. The cause of what happened under investigation. What a mess. On the heels of the whole Southwest situation and whether we have the computer glitch. So, it's been a real strain for air travelers lately. We've been talking about storms around the Bay Area. And of course, if you missed the beginning of the show, we spoke with ABC's Spencer Christian, who says we've got a level 2 storm going on today. That'll be moving out about 5 to 7 this evening, but we could see some wind gusts between 45 and 50 miles per hour. We get a break from the storm tomorrow, a very light storm on Friday, Saturday, a level 2 coming back in, and then level 1 Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So we're not done with the rain yet. The ground saturated already, trees toppling. This is a picture from a couple days ago of flooding going on in the Gilroy area. But we have more of the kinds of storms that have flooded on the way. And we get the next big storm that is upon us right now. Governor Gavin Newsom noted 4 more atmospheric rivers are headed toward the Golden State over the next 10 days. So we're kind of in for it here in California. Talking about Prince Harry's new memoir, it is the UK's fastest selling nonfiction book ever. So, for everyone in the UK who seems to be angry at Prince Harry, they sure want all the dirt. They want to know exactly what he has to say. Publisher Transworld Penguin Random House announcing 400,000 copies were sold across all platforms in the UK. A director for the company said the only books they know they have sold more of on their first day were Harry Potter novels. So, Prince Harry, Harry Potter, I don't know. I have a lot of people interested in what he has to say. I still feel like it's quite a thing for him to come out and say with one breath, I really want to put things together with my family. I really want to mend these relationships. And in the other, write this tell-all book talking about physical fights between he and his brother. Um, that calling now Queen Consort Camilla that he and his brother called her the other woman. Is it interesting? Yes. Is it something that he needs to come out and say? I don't necessarily know if he needs to be airing all that dirty laundry, but it's up to him. And he's making a hell of a lot of money from doing it. That's for sure. A federal judge could decide today whether or not to reveal the names of about 1 million clients caught up in the FTX crypto scandal. Bankruptcy Judge John Dorsey will hear arguments from the New York Times, Dow Jones, Bloomberg, and the Financial Times about why clients of the cryptocurrency company FTX no longer deserve anonymity. FTX representatives say revealing names would violate privacy rules and allow rivals to poach their clients. I don't know if anyone who had purchased crypto would be upset that anyone knew about that. I don't know. I mean, it seems like a private investment. I don't know why we would care who are the people investing in crypto or not. There's probably some big names in there, some sports figures. I don't know. We'll see. Something big happening today in Paris. This is a horrible attack, injuring at least 6 people. A suspected knife attack at Paris's central railway station early today. A Paris police spokeswoman said a suspect armed with a knife started attacking people just before 7 o'clock this morning. Police ended up shooting that attacker. But yeah, what a horrible attack. 6 people affected by that. Let's see if we can take this picture down. So the news is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve Moskowitz has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses alike. So if you are in need of a tax specialist or you have tax questions, you got to call Steve Moskowitz. It's 888 Tax Deal. It's also MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show. We don't have any music, but that's okay. We'll have a new music tomorrow. I'm going to get a new news bed. I'm very excited about all this. So I want
We did
to.
get some super chats and some
Oh, let's go through
super
it.
likes. So
I don't
here,
have the
I'll
thank
get
you,
them. I'll get them lined up
thank
for
you.
you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see if I can. Luis, yes, thank you so much for donating. Come on, people, let's smash that like button, get those super stickers flying. Kim, thanks for being a rainbow in this rainstorm. Well, that's so nice, Luis. Thank you so much for the nice words and for donating. You can click the the $, the heart button and the $, and donate. And we really appreciate all the help so much. So I know it's so different from Station X, but it's how we keep it going. Sharon Kidd, just so sweet. Sharon's from Willett, so I always think of her every time now I see Willits in the news. Nice to see you, Kim. Nice job filling in for Mark. I am no Mark Thompson, but definitely okay to step in while he's away, and we welcome him back tomorrow when his neighborhood has full power and he's ready to go. But Sharon, I'll do it for you. Ready? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not going to cry. Thank you, Sharon. We really appreciate that so much. Luis, $9.99 again. Here's to more John Rothman. Okay, we hear that. I think I agree with you. I think John Rothman has such a wealth of knowledge on all things politics and more. I really welcome him back to the show, and I can't wait to have him back. I know we will have him back. I'm hoping next week as well. So I do appreciate that. And Deborah Brown, $20 super sticker. Deborah, that's so nice. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your support of the show. By the way, click the like button if you can right now. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just clickety click, click, click it. And we really appreciate that. Thank you for all the ways that you donate. If you don't want to do the super stickers on YouTube, you can be a supporter of the show. You see the names roll up at the end. Patreon supporters, you can go to themarkthompsonshow.com. We make it really easy for you. Themarkthompsonshow.com. There's 2 ways that you can contribute on that website. You can click Patreon, become a Patreon subscriber, or you can go ahead and click PayPal. Either way. And we are very happy to have your support. We're just happy to have you along for the ride and being with us. So thank you. Whether you're following us, you're new to us, or whether you came from Station X in San Francisco or KFI in Los Angeles, we're very grateful. Oh, yep, he's got it up for me there. If you scroll back to the 2 buttons, yep, one is Patreon on the left and PayPal on the right. So super easy. And thank you very much to everyone for contributing. So appreciate you. You guys make me want to cry for sure, for sure. Appreciate that so much. So thank you for being part of the conversation. I'm going to read some comments that we got from everyone. Oh, I love the drops. I think they add so much fun and frivolity to the show. But I hear you. You want a little break from them now and then. Yep. Sharon wants you to smash it like a boss. Smash it with your iron rod. You see, you might be tired of the drops, but I'll go ahead and give them to you verbally. That'll be the way we do it right now. Anonymous, a great example for your kids embracing the role hosting. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I think that's what we have to do for each other. You know, you step in when people need a break. And it's different when you're working for a radio station and there's a stable of fill-in people and you have paid time off, right? In this particular instance, we're all just kind of a team that has to step in for each other. There is no, you know, put in a request to take a time off or at all. So it's nice that even though it's a power outage situation, that Mark takes a little break sometimes.
Yeah, you're
I
playing
like
the
that.
role of Mark and Kim today, Kim. I'm doing Tony and my job as well.
See,
So we're
that's
we're,
what
we're wearing a couple different hats today.
couple different hats. Thank you, Albert, for being here with me. I really appreciate it. Oh, Liz says he's donating the money made from book sales. I think you're talking about Prince Harry. How great. That's good to know. Although it does seem, Liz, and maybe he's, as you say, donating the money from this book. but I think they're making money other ways. I don't know. They're doing the podcast, they're doing interviews. It seems like there may be personal profit in some way. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know why you would feel compelled to come out and share the dirty laundry and tell all the family secrets unless maybe there was some type of financial incentive. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just talk to your wife about it, talk to your therapist about it? But if you really wanted to put those relationships back together, why make it public? I just, maybe because that's the way I would approach it, that's the way I feel he should approach it. Maybe there is some type of therapeutic value in, telling the world what's going on with your family. Maybe that's the case, but I'm glad to hear that there will be some money donated. That's very good. Let's see, what else do we have here? Uh,
Got another
oh,
donation coming in from CR.
$20 from CR. Thank you so much. That's really, really nice. We appreciate that very much. I'm very grateful. What was the new drop that we had from Ted Lasso? Thank you.
I don't want to cry.
Oh,
Or
was that the I don't want to cry? Okay.
yeah,
um Let's take this one about Buttigieg from Natalie. I think Buttigieg is winning over swing voters that watch Fox. Homophobia in the country, I don't really think will be an issue. Those people never vote blue anyway. That's true. The more he's on Fox, the more it's like anything, right? The more people get to know him, get to feel comfortable with him, get to know that he's a reasonable guy who's doing the best he can for the country, the more all the other stuff falls away. The less you care about who he's sleeping with, who the father of his children are, who he's sharing a life with. At least that's what I think. That's how my mind would see it, but I didn't care about all that other stuff anyway. I hope you're right, Natalie. I'd like to think that that's the case, and maybe because he's in the spotlight, especially right now with everything happening with air travel, maybe people on Fox, watching Fox, are getting a little more comfortable with him. I don't know. I like to think that that's the case. Jennifer almost finished with the book. Harry does not want to reconcile with family. Does want to reconcile with family, but not until all the truths are told. I have come to agree that there is no other way for it to happen. Jennifer, I'm fascinated that you would say that you would think that there's no other way for him to reconcile with his family other than to let the world know what happened. Because isn't it really between him and his family? You know, why does the world need to know in order for him to reconcile? What is it? Why does he care whether I know what happened with him and his brother? That his brother grabbed him around the neck and got angry. Why does it matter that the world knows? Why they know what happened? Can't that be enough? I don't know. But okay, I'm going to trust you. I haven't read the book, so maybe you're right. Maybe you get to a point in there where, you know, it's just better and more cathartic to let it all out. I don't know. Thank you for all the texts. Please keep them coming. The chats and the texts, really love it. And again, if you want to contribute to the show, themarkthompsonshow.com, or you can send us a super sticker, and we appreciate it. One of the people that supports the show most of all is tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. So let's welcome him to the mix. I like your shirt today. A little pink,
Thank
a little
you.
blue. It's very nice.
Well, that's the pandemic wardrobe, because before this I had a closet full of blue suits and white shirts.
I know. I like the colors and I like the plaids. So you always look nice. Are you working from home today? What are you doing?
Yes, I am.
Okay. That's the
And
beauty of life. You can do it either way.
yeah, in this world, things have changed. And it doesn't matter if you're in the office or someplace else, everything is remote, which is a benefit for an awful lot of people and a lot of companies too.
Would you say that most of your clients are remote? Oh,
Yes, most
hello and good
people,
morning. Would you
most
say that
people,
most, or do people come into the office to see you?
I have a nice office in the financial district, but very few people come in.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with my colleagues. Very few come in. Almost everybody, I took a little informal survey with my clients, and they said, well, why would I want to leave my house, drive an hour,
Yep.
get into congested traffic? And then there's some comments, and I know this is very touchy, about certain people that are in the city that they don't like to be with.
Hmm.
I think
But
you're
also high cost
homeless.
of gas and parking and
Yeah.
and stepping over the homeless people as you walk into the office, right? Yeah.
And people have mentioned that they don't
Yeah.
want to be accosted by somebody,
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, give me some money," other than the IRS. But the bottom line is that most people prefer to do things remotely.
And that means really that you can take clients from anywhere, right?
That's right. We always did, but it just wasn't as like today, where just, in the old days, basically everybody walked into the office, almost everybody walked into the office. There's a few people you never met, did everything on the phone.
Mhm.
Zoom is a big help because you actually see each other. And the other thing is our world has just changed. People don't want to come in anymore. And it's a benefit to a lot of people. They save money on transportation, clothing, food. And if
Mhm.
you have kids and you're taking care of them, even if the kids are off in school, how nice it's you're close to them,
Mhm.
as opposed to, little Johnny has an accident and mom has to drive an hour and a half to get there. This way, mom drives 5-10 minutes, or dad. So, I mean,
But
there are all those changes.
yeah, no, I'm down with that, and I love that you're able to help more people because now more people have access to you, right?
It's funny. It gave me an actual. I live in the city, and my house is only 6 miles from the financial district. But prior to the pandemic, with the traffic, it would take me an hour to get there.
Oh god.
So basically, all of a sudden, now that my commute is from my bedroom to my living room or my dining room,
Mhm.
it gave me an extra 2 hours in a day. So I actually keep office hours longer, where, time I would have been driving, now I'm available to meet with clients.
That's awesome. I love that. If you need help with your taxes, you got to call Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. You have a snazzy website too, moskowitzllp.com, and I always enjoy the picture of you on there in your former uniform
In my
that
former uniform.
you've now traded for colorful plaid.
Yeah, it's amazing. I never addressed a client in an open shirt. It was always my blue suit and white shirt,
Right.
because when I first started working professionally in New York, I worked for a big fancy firm that had a very, very strict dress code. And you dressed like that or out the door you went.
Right.
And I got so used to that. Now, this is nice.
Yeah. Well, everything's changed, right? The tech world is popular. Everyone's wearing a hoodie and a t-shirt. So with you've got a collared shirt on there, you're looking pretty good. One thing I did want to ask you about, and this is kind of political, not to get too political with you, but I was talking to John Rothman earlier about Weisselberg, the CFO of the Trump organization, and he will be doing, I think it's 5 months behind
Yes.
bars for his role in the tax
Well, that was
scheme.
his reduced sentence for testifying.
Oh, okay. And so do you think he had good representation? Do you think 5 months is fair, or do you think it should have been more?
Fair has nothing to do with this. This is so political. If you said to me it was John Smith, somebody that nobody ever heard of, and it was like 99.999% of the cases, it's just about the tax, then we could look at it. This is so politically charged. And unfortunately, our country is so polarized today. Basically, half the country hates the other half.
Yeah.
Half the country says this is a hero. The other half says this is a villain. So this, we can't measure this one because this is so political.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate your opinion on the matter. And if I ever was in his situation, I'd sure hope to have you on my side. That's for
And I
sure.
wouldn't let you get to that point, so you wouldn't have to worry about doing time.
Thank God. Thank God. I appreciate it. Steve Moskowitz, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show.
My pleasure.
888 Tax Deal, moskowitzllp.com, MOSKOWITZ LLP.com. So thank you for being here, Steve.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you. Want to welcome in an old friend, a comedian, someone I adore. It is Ngaio Bealum. Hi.
Hello, yay! Adore! Oh my gosh. I never
How
thought of myself
are
as
you?
adorable. I remain delicious.
Oh,
How are you?
You have been delicious for a long, long time. I would love to talk about all the things that make you you. So here's some of your attributes.
Oh, I have attributes.
Are you right?
I'm ready.
American, this is from Wikipedia, because
Oh,
apparently you have your own Wikipedia entry.
I do.
Lottie-dottie. You're an American comedian.
Yes.
You are a musician. We'll talk about that in a moment. A writer, an actor, an activist, apparently a juggler. Who knew? A publisher. You co-hosted Cannabis Planet, you published West Coast Cannabis Magazine. Look at you juggling, baby. And you hosted a podcast on cannabis radio. Those are just that's the tip of the iceberg with you.
The tip, just the tip.
So you're from San Francisco, and I used to see you at the gas station all the time, because I think you must have lived near where I lived at Felon de Visadero.
I lived on Visadero and Page for like 20-something years.
So I would always see you around. We knew each other from radio in Sacramento as well.
That's right.
And then I found out we have a connection that I didn't realize. I went to high school in the Santa Cruz area with an awesome, cute, amazing guy named Mark Reitman.
Mark Reitman is one of my best friends on the planet.
And Mark Reitman was in a band. What's it called? The Most Chill Slack Mob?
Chill Slack Mob. That was us.
Guess who was in the band? Ngaio Bealum.
Yeah, so that's right. Me and Mark started that band.
There you are. What's going on with the Most Chill Slack Mob these days?
Oh, we're in band retirement. We still have a group chat. There's always discussion and talk about it. People got kids and stuff.
Yeah, life changes, right?
Life changes, man. But I've been watching a bunch of these old rappers like Pete and Baz. Those guys are 1 million years old. They're like British drill slime rapper dudes, and they're pretty awesome. And then Lima Beans is approximately 80 years old, out of Chicago, and he's still doing his thing. So, we might get back into it. Who knows? Listen, if I hit this Powerball next Saturday, I'm taking the band on a world tour. So
Mega Millions jackpot up to 1.35 billion.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with me that 0.3 billion wouldn't fix. Like, I don't even need the whole thing.
Just a chunk. Just a
chunk.
Just a chunker.
Listen, a couple $100,000 would tide me over. Would be smooth.
So let me talk to you about marijuana.
Cannabis?
I don't use the substance.
Okay.
But I don't judge those who do.
Fair enough.
And I think that I don't know very much about it either. And so I'm remiss in that. But I will tell you this. I am surprised at the amount of people that once it became legal, recreational marijuana became legal, came not necessarily out of the woodwork, but all of a sudden thought, okay, though this is something that might help me. I had a neighbor who, after Station X imploded, had me over for a glass of wine, and he's pulling out his edibles.
Yeah.
And he's got some knee problems, and he's pulling out his lotion and putting it on his knee and showing me the lotion that is infused with oil and such. I feel like there's a lot of people that would have been using it in the past that are now like, okay, this is okay for me now. So I think it's helping a lot of people. I think if I had chronic pain, I'd be the first one lining up.
Yeah, listen, even if you have a minor pain or a twinge, or you pulled a muscle working out, a salve, an unguent, an ointment, some CBD THC mix, bruh, it does wonders. It does wonders. And a lot of people are always on cannabis is a miracle drug. It'll fix everything. It won't fix everything, but it can make you feel a little better, which is always nice.
It is always nice,
It's always nice to feel a little better.
Without really a lot of after effects either,
Exactly.
Yeah.
The cannabis hangover is very rare. I mean, you can do it, but you have to smoke a lot of weed. I've had one a couple times.
Are there when I think about edibles, and this is where my mom brain goes, I think of, they look like gummy bears. I would never want that around the house because my kid could mistake it. And there's all kinds of, issues with, more children now accidentally ingesting edibles and stuff like that. Are there new trends in edibles to make them not look like candy, or maybe to make them differently? Or am I just being stupid? The look on your face is, Kim, you're being stupid.
Well, stupid is a strong word.
Like, what the hell is she talking about?
Maybe you're overthinking a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
As a parent, and my kids are awesome. They're actually young adults now, and a lot of weed in the house. First of all, you talk to your kids. You're like, cannabis is not for kids. Neither is booze. Neither are cigarettes. Neither are pills. There are things that adults get to do that kids don't get to do. That's the first rule, right? Secondly, I keep wanting to cuss because keep that stuff out of the reach of your children. You don't have a spot on top of the fridge where you hide your other snacks where the kids don't get to go. You don't have a drawer. That's mommy's drawer with their little medicine or whatever. Mommy's got to have a glass of wine. You don't go in mommy's wine. It's the same sort of thing, right? And also, if your kid eats a 5 milligram edible, they're going to act loopy for a minute and they're going to pass out. It's not going to be a really big deal as opposed to your kid drinking all your vodka or finding your gun.
Not that we're advocating that, but
we're not advocating any of that. Listen, my kids did not touch drugs until college, but I was very open with them from the beginning. I was like, drugs are not for kids. Drugs are for adults. So at least wait till you get to college. At least wait till you have some experience. Let your brain form a little bit more. Have an idea of who you are. Have an idea of how to handle your responsibilities. And then if you want to try something every once in a while, I prefer you smoke weed. I prefer that you're not alcoholics. So there's dependency issues. You have to be careful on that.
Yeah.
But, handle your business first and then decide if you want to do it. But that's all about communication.
I was talking to a high school senior when vaping pot was kind of I guess it is still a big thing.
It's still a thing.
He was saying 90% of kids in high school are vaping and most of it happens at school.
I can't speak on that. I haven't been to a high school in a long time. Something about a restraining order. I'm kidding. But no, I don't get to. I can't speak on that. But also, when I was in high school, it wasn't 90%. There were quite a few stoner kids at school, and a few kids would show up a little. Maybe they had a little drink or two before the thing. People like to do drugs, so the thing you want to do is you want to be responsible with it. Dr. Carl Hart just put out a new book called How to Do Drug Use for Grown-Ups.
A couple chats coming on. One of them, we'll look at Nick's first. He says, I tried an edible once, felt like my brain was being pulled from the base of my skull. Never again. And then you have another viewer who says no. Well, let's see if I can find it. This is Eric, who says it depends on the type. I use edibles for insomnia. I've heard a lot of people do that for insomnia.
It'll put you right to sleep sometimes for some people. And listen, first of all, I'm sorry with the homie who had a horrible experience. That happens sometimes. You probably took too much and you weren't ready for it's a mind altering substance. Fortunately for us now, we have things like CBD. So if you feel yourself too high, use a CBD tincture, eat a CBD gummy, because CBD it blocks the THC receptors in your brain. And so it keeps you from getting as high, and it will help bring you down. It'll smooth you out, right? Other than that, just be careful. And for insomnia, a lot of people use it. Especially older people, love a little 5 milligrams here and there to help them sleep really, really well and really good, which is nice. We need more sleep in America. America's always like, go, go, go. Don't rest. Rah, 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 rah.
Sticky Cola Bud agrees. Be careful the milligrams you take on edibles. Go low doses. My heart races if I take large amounts.
Start low, go slow. You can always eat more. You can never eat less. Right?
That is true. But you're the one who taught me.
And it's beautiful now that with the regulations, it tells you how much is in it. Because when we first started, bruh, it was like, I ate a small brownie and I was knocked out for 4 days. Or, I ate a big one and it wasn't even that powerful. So now this is 5 milligrams, it's 10 milligrams. You can lock it in for yourself. It takes a little trial and error, but once you find it, bro, your day is smoothed out.
So speaking about regulations, I was going to say you're the person who taught me that what the reason was that many dispensaries kept a lot of cash around because of federal banking rules.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Has that changed at all?
Not at all. Not at all.
Oh.
Every year they try to introduce a bill and every year it doesn't happen. And the biggest challenge is law enforcement makes a lot of money from locking people up for cannabis and other personal drug offenses. And so you kind of have to talk, it's how do you, what was it Mencken who said, do not expect a man to understand you if his job depends on him not understanding you, right? So every time they try to make it easier for cannabis, make it easier for people to have a cannabis business, the people who make money from prohibition were like, well, you're messing with our money. We can't have this, even if it will be better for society in general. We're Americans, and as Americans, money is more important than almost anything, right? That's what we teach people. That's how this country is set up for so many things. So every time somebody goes to jail, the jail gets paid, right? So there's a financial incentive for people to keep marijuana as illegal as possible, even though making marijuana legal. Listen, if we trusted for science and common sense to rule the day, we'd have a lot more stuff in this
I
country.
was
It's
reading.
very early. I've just only had 1 cup of coffee. Don't give me a moment. I know it's 11:30 for you, but it's 11:30 for me as well.
So I don't want to talk all about marijuana, but I do want to ask you this question because after the rules were changed, it seemed like people that were growers were thinking, "Oh, this is going to be great for us," but maybe that hasn't panned out either.
The thing, once again, is a lot of places want to prohibit through overregulation, right? So they're like, yeah, okay, it's legal and you can do it, but for you to do it, you need $1 million in this. You got to have this and that. This has to be compliant. This has to do this. This has to do that. This has to do that. And so now you can't do it, right? You can't afford to do it. They think everybody who's a cannabis farmer is just spending a year in Thailand or spending all their. Not everybody was rich like that. There's small farms. We're talking about mom and pop farms, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the regulations have brought the prices way down, so you don't make nearly as much per pound as you used to. So now you have to grow twice as much on the same plot of land. It's a whole lot of things, and also a lot of these. Once again, it's the money, right? So a lot of these big corporations with more money than sense come in and they want to, capitalism wants to capitalize. So they want to be a monopoly. So they want to force out all the small farms. They don't want anybody to grow anything that's too good. A lot of this cannabis today tastes like commercial pressure. We really need to look more at the fancy wine industry or like the microbrewery industry and stop trying to turn cannabis into cigarettes. And I know you think that would be the parallel because you smoke cannabis and you smoke cigarettes, but it's a whole different thing. Maybe if you think of it as like a fancy cigar, you go to your fancy cigar shop, you get to smoke your fancy cigar, you get to smell the tobacco. Oh, this is a cherry wood rose blend from blah, 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 blah. That's where we need to lean more toward at the 7-Eleven. You understand? And like John Watson said, the taxes are way too high. And it is kind of cheaper to get it off the black market. Not that I would ever do anything like that.
No, never. Absolutely not.
No, listen.
Okay, let's talk.
In Georgia, and as long as weed is still illegal in Idaho and illegal in Georgia, and people can make more money selling it illegal out of state than they can selling it in state.
Yeah.
There's the thing.
Huge in Japan says home growing. You can do it. It's a whole new experience, saves a ton of money, but it does take the money away from commercial growers. Is it legal to grow?
You can also make your own beer. How many people do that?
Yeah.
Do I grow my own? Sure. I use the benevolent neglect system. I just throw some things out in the backyard and do my best. I'm not really like Mr. Fancy Pants home grower, although I'm going to grow my plan is to make a few seeds. It turns out that you can sell cannabis seeds anywhere in the country now. The DEA is like, well, as long as you don't grow them somewhere illegal, it's just cannabis or it's just hemp seeds. So at that point, we don't really care. So I think that's my next thing is I'm going to grow my own cannabis seeds and then sell them as souvenirs and merch after my shows.
Speaking of your shows, you've got a couple coming up in Sacramento. I was reading back to your Wikipedia page. You call yourself, I don't know if you call yourself, you say you specialize in observational comedy. And looking at the world around you. Yeah, you're an observational comedian.
Yeah, that's what Wikipedia says. I don't know. I just tell stories.
Must be true if it's on Wikipedia, right?
Yeah, because the internet never lies. Abraham Lincoln said that. Oh, at least that's what I read on the internet.
Right. It's true.
The internet is always true. Always true. 5G causes cancer.
So you got a couple shows coming up in Sacramento, I think? I
do. So this weekend, I'm going to be at Laughs Unlimited on the 13th and 14th. 2 shows a night, Friday and Saturday. And then on the 22nd, I'll be at the Punchline with Susan Vanetti's drag brunch or drag comedy show or something like that. I can't decide if I'm going to do drag or not. And then on the 27th, I will be at the Crest Theater, the historic Crest Theater in downtown Sac.
That's a pretty theater. I love that place.
Theater. I haven't played there.
As a matter of fact, that is where I booked you for a comedy show one point when I was working for a radio station in Sacramento at the
Valentine's Day show.
That's right.
Right, with Brian and Mark. No.
Sean and Jeff.
Sean and Jeff. I still
Mhm.
hang out. I still talk to Sean or Jeff.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
They're
Um,
interchangeable.
Jeff Charlotte. I can't remember,
What now?
but I can't remember his last name. But yeah,
Oh, Machado. Yeah.
Jeff Machado. That's him.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll be there with Steph Toliv and Craig Conant, and then on the 29th, we're finally bringing back my monthly comedy showcase known as the Comedy Burger, because we sell you a good burger as well for like $10, and we do a comedy showcase show. That'll be a good time.
Where can
That's
people
part of
find
it.
out more about all the things you're doing? Do you have a
Just call
website?
me 213-804-6121. No, Mike Jones. I have Instagram and I have Twitter. And I
Okay.
have a Facebook fan page, and I'm supposed to have a website, but I'm very slow. And I also have a Patreon. Ngaio 420 Ngaio 420 costs like $1. That's the minimum. You can get in on $1. And I promise to start putting stuff on there real soon.
Okay, cool. Not too many Ngaios in the world, I would think, so you're easy
I'm the
to
third
find.
most popular one.
Yeah, who's the other one? Do we know the other one?
Well, it turns out that the spelling of my name is pronounced Ngaio, so Ngaio. If you speak Maori, if you're from New Zealand, the Ngaio is a not uncommon name. It's not
Okay.
super popular, but it's not uncommon. So there's the mystery writer from back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, Ngaio Marsh. She's well
Okay.
known, written a bunch of books. And then it's also like a park and a tree, I think. And so the park and the author are often a little more popular than me, but they pronounce it differently.
You got beat by a park?
Yeah, listen, man.
Outrageous.
Yeah, all the people named Yosemite are upset right now too.
But you say
Smarts out,
Ngaio,
Golden Gates.
right?
Ngaio. I say Ngaio.
Yeah,
like
that's what I thought. Ngaio. Yeah. That's what I've been calling you for the last 20 years. So hopefully
still
that's
true.
what you call yourself.
Yeah.
I would have hated to have been wrong all that time. I hope you would have corrected me.
I would have. I'm not super judicious about it. You know, if you get close, that's fine.
So are you following
It's been weird.
politics at all? Or what are your thoughts on the world?
Right off the cliff. Right off the cliff. They say you get more conservative when you get older, but really, like, when I was younger, I was way more moderate. I was like, well, if we just use common sense and love and we talk to people and meet them where they're at, things are going to get better. And now I'm like, burn it all down, start again, right? Power to the people. Workers seize the means of production, right? Because it's hard to deal with these conservatives because they don't really compromise, right? You tell them, so you start here and they're here and they go meet us in the middle. So you move toward the middle and then they moved over there. And so now if you try to meet them in the middle, then all of a sudden everybody's on the right wing, right? So I definitely love a good radical fringe on the left side because when you're negotiating with crazy people, you got to start way. So, you know, we're going to have free drugs and free love and sex in the streets. We'll start from there, and then I get to play good cop and be like, well, listen, okay, we don't have to start from there, but we're going to start very close because you guys are way out. You can shoot whoever you want, and we're burning all the books, right? So we're going to negotiate. We're going to start trying to find something where nobody's happy, but everything's better. We'll see. We'll see how.
Funny, you're freezing up a little bit, but I got that the further over you start, the more of a chance you have in meeting in the middle. Were you following the whole speaker vote? I was riveted by it. Were you paying attention to that, or were you just eating your edibles and laughing? What were you doing?
I actually technically took a day off work to watch it for that one time. I had MSNBC on and C-SPAN on full tilt for a minute. I thought it was hilarious. But you know, here's a lot of people said that the progressive left wing, like the Squad, like AOC and all those cats, should be more like that, right? When it comes to taking a vote, because the right wing nut jobs in Congress, Matt Gaetz and Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they really were kind of effective in keeping their fellow right, who apparently isn't right wing enough for them, from being the speaker for 2 days, and they apparently forced a ton of concessions. Yeah. And so I could see how people would think that might be more effective on the left hand side, but I also know that if left wingers do it, then it's like, oh, Democrats in disarray, oh, they can't get anything together, oh, those guys can't govern. But when Republicans do it, it's just like, well, they can't govern. They can't govern. It should be a relatively simple thing to find a Speaker of the House.
You think
And
Donald
they
Trump
couldn't do
is ever going to face repercussions for any of the bad stuff that might have been done?
In my heart of hearts, he will. Karma is often slow, but it is often effective, and it may not. I don't know, bro. It may not be a. I mean, listen. Go to my Patreon, and I'll write down some of my favorite conspiracy theories for you. But you can't. I'm not saying things like this on the air, but he could have just kept his mouth shut and laundered Russian money for the rest of his life. But his ego got him involved, and now he's got a lot more problems than he thinks he does. Than he thinks he might have. And he's not super smart, although he is incredibly cunning, if you understand what I mean. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right, I want to throw this story at you because there was a situation in Massachusetts
All right.
at the Dunkin' Donut shop.
That sounds like the name of like a movie.
A situation in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
You write it.
I feel like
all
Ben Affleck directed it.
Speaking of which, Ben Affleck was at this Dunkin' Donuts in Massachusetts. He was serving coffee. Ben Affleck and his wife, Jennifer Lopez, were at the shop in Medford yesterday, Massachusetts. They were shooting a commercial for Dunkin' Donuts.
All right.
And there was Ben Affleck in his Dunkin' Donuts uniform and hugging J-Lo and shouting a thank you to the employees at the Dunkin' Donut shop. I don't know. It's kind of fun when you see celebrities doing stuff like that, you know, in the drive-thru serving people.
Yeah. It's like when people find me in the park smoking weed.
Just like that. I'm telling you.
That would be cool though. You walk into the Dunkin' Donuts, you'd be like, man, I heard your last movie didn't do well, but I didn't realize you didn't save up. You didn't have any. I thought you bought some land when the first one went well. Maybe you could sell some palm trees or something.
Yeah. Here's some guys that need to smoke some weed, I think. These are two Indian men who have visited all 7 continents in under 4 days. They're trying to break this world record. So, yeah, under 4 days, Al Irani and Sujoy Kumar Mitra started their journey in Antarctica December 4th, ended their trip in Melbourne, Australia, December 7th. It took them 3 days, 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 4 seconds to beat the record held by a woman set in 2020 who went around the world in, I don't know, they beat her by 13 hours. So they
What's
may
the
be
carbon footprint on that? Because you just start in Antarctica and then you just fly to someplace and you land, and then you fly to some other place and you land.
Well, you couldn't really get out and have
get off the plane if you're trying to do it. They said 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days and 1 hour. You couldn't really sightsee.
No,
that's not fun. What's fun about that?
I can't imagine. Now, Michael Palin used to have a show. I wonder if you can still find it on streaming, where he actually went around the world in 80 days, which 80 days seems like, okay. I mean, you know, you don't get to see everything.
Right.
But,
you gotta hustle.
But you gotta hustle, but that's a thing. Around the world in 80 days. That's the thing, bro. I spent 2.5 months just traveling around the world. Okay, boom, boom, boom. And me, though, like, it would never work because once we landed in Barcelona or Amsterdam, it's going to be a week. It's going to be a few days, right?
It's going to be a little while. And Ngaio's going to have a little fun hanging out.
Hang out for a little while. That's just how it is. How it is. Man, like, if I'm in Portland, there's people I got to see. There's a couple things I got to eat, right? Not everything is open on the Monday. If we get in on Monday, we got to wait till Tuesday because I'm going to Pine State Biscuits, right? Yeah. I'm going to a couple other places. So, I mean, I guess I don't really understand. There was a what's the movie? What was the movie called? Author or something. I can't remember. It was an old movie, but this guy was bragging about how he was a speed reader. Right? I took a speed reading class. Now I can read a novel in an hour. And the other guy was like, "But why? Why would you rush through that? You're missing the beauty of the language. You're missing the things. You're missing the this. You're missing the that. I would pay great sums for someone to teach me to read more slowly." Right? So I can savor, so you can get into it, right? I understand having a schedule and wanting to do things and be on time, but sometimes, man, especially if you're traveling around the world, like how often do you get, like I'm going to Barcelona in March for a conference, which is for 3 days, but I'm also going to take another 9 or 10 or 11 days because I'm going to be in Barcelona. How often do you get to go to Barcelona, right? So you might as well hang out. Maybe I'll go, listen, every time I go to Barcelona, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to Barcelona. And then I'm going to go to Madrid because I've never been to Madrid. I got some homies in Valencia. I'm going to go out to Valencia, maybe see them. Maybe I'll try to head out to Menorca or whatever. And then I get to Barcelona, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm so comfortable. This is so nice. I'm really, I think I'm just going to hang out here, man.
That's the beauty of it, though. I don't understand what the point is. Like, other than the notoriety of saying you did something, but what did you really do? You saw a few airports and you got your name in a book.
I can fly on a plane for 3 days anytime I want, really. So,
yeah. All right. And Ngaio Bealum, you are going to be, you said Punchline where?
So I'll be at Laughs Unlimited in Old Sac this weekend.
Okay.
And then on the 22nd, I'll be at the Punchline in Sacramento. It's also, I'm not going crazy on the touring in the winter anymore. I'm not 25.
That's cool. People want to come see you, though, you know.
Yeah, people come see me. Come on out, man. We'll be here. And then so I'll be at the Punchline in Sacramento on the 22nd. I'll be at Laughs Unlimited the 13th and 14th. I'll be at the Crest Theater on the 27th and Harlow's on the 29th.
And are you still doing any broadcasting as far as podcasts or anything else?
The podcast is about to make a comeback on the Patreon. I'm negotiating with some things right now. I just got to get off my stoner ass.
All right. Well, I appreciate you. It is such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always good to see you.
I will check in with you soon, and I'll be looking for you at the gas station. You know, never know where I'm going to.
Just drove by that
where
gas
you're going to
station
pop
the
up.
other day, actually. So there it is.
I'll be keeping my Ngaio eyes open.
Please do. Please do. I'm like a chunky bar. I'm hard to find, but I'm everywhere.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Take care now.
Big love.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. And Ngaio Bealum, everybody. He's a great comedian, great friend, really funny, and such a nice person as well. So I appreciate him being here. And if you have a chance to go out and see any of those shows, it'll definitely be worth it for you. So I wanted to take a moment to, thank you very much, Albert, to thank Lori Above the Bar. $20. What a treat. I'm a Kim super fan. I'm a super Lori fan. Speaking of which, before we go to the next one, I want to make sure that we get our chance to show the Red Jack Saloon, where I think that you may be able to get a cocktail from Lori. Here's the inside of the bar. Of course, you can order at the Red Jack your martini. And I believe the proceeds may be going to the Mark Thompson Show. So be a huge supporter, Lori Above the Bar. I appreciate you and thank you for your nice words. You're so kind. And thank you so much for that. And I appreciate it very much. Lori Above the Bar with $20. So thank you very much for the nice donation. And thank you for being here on the Mark Thompson Show. It's been a lot of fun. Mark will be back tomorrow. The power will be back in his neighborhood. We've got more storms on the way in to the Bay Area today. Again, Spencer Christian saying they'll be with us this rainfall, this level 2 rainfall, till about 5 p.m. And then things will lighten up. But then we get kind of a lighter storm coming in. That, he said, would be, we get a break tomorrow, light storm Friday, level 2 Saturday, and then some more light storms on the way in. Thank you to Vilma, $9.99 super sticker. You're so kind, Vilma. Thank you so much for the support and for sending in your beautiful pictures of Christmas as well. I really appreciate that. By the way, if you have storm pictures that you want to send, you can always do that. It's kimmcallister@gmail.com, 2 M's, 2 C's, 2 L's. You can always send in an email of pictures you think that I'd be interested in maybe using on the news, and so we'll do that. Nikki Maduro show coming up next, and she's talking about the A's stadium might not get federal funding like they thought. We'll talk about Michaela Garrett's alleged killer and Katie Porter wanting Dianne Feinstein's Senate seat. That is all coming up in just about 30 seconds on the Nikki Maduro show. So please follow there. I will be there as well. Thank you for being here on the Mark Thompson Show. Very grateful to you. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.